The war between humans and the Valari had lasted for many years. No one remembered how it started. Some said it began with a mistake. Others said it began with fear. But now, finally, it was over. A peace treaty was signed in space. Both sides agreed to stop fighting. Leaders from Earth and the Valari met on a neutral moon to shake hands and speak new promises. There were rules, trade deals, and a strange tradition from the Valari side. Each side would give a peace symbol to the other. The Valari offered something unusual. Their queen. Her name was Alara. She was tall, with silver blue skin, long dark hair, and calm eyes that held both sadness and strength. She had ruled the Valari for 10 years, guiding her people through war, hunger, and fear. Now, she was being handed over to a human. Not a general, not a president, just a soldier. His name was Tom. Tom was young, but not new to war. He had fought in many battles and lost many friends. Now, he lived in a small cabin far from the cities, hoping to forget the sound of guns and the smell of fire. When he got the message from Earth Command that someone would be sent to live with him, as part of the peace tradition, he didn't know what to think. He expected maybe a farmer, maybe an alien worker or helper. But when the ship landed outside his cabin and the doors opened, he saw something he never imagined. Two Valari guards stepped out first. Behind them walked Queen Alara, dressed in a long robe of deep blue, with a crown made of glowing stones. Her hands were tied in front of her with thin gold chains. Her face was calm, but her eyes watched everything with caution. Tom stood still. He had seen aliens before, but never like this, never this close, never with so much silence in the air. The lead Valari guard stepped forward and spoke through a translator device. This is Queen Alara. She is given as a symbol of trust. She will stay with you. Protect her. Do not harm her. Do not fear her. This is the will of peace. Tom blinked. Wait, stay with me. Why me? But the guards were already turning back. They left Alara standing alone. With only a small bag of items, the ship rose and disappeared into the sky. Alara looked at Tom but said nothing. She didn't trust the translator hanging around her neck. And she didn't trust him. Tom scratched his head. Well, all right then. Let's go inside. Alara followed him carefully, walking with slow, proud steps. She did not remove her crown. She did not lower her head. But inside, she felt something she had not felt in years. Fear. In her world, humans were called destroyers. She had seen the reports, heard the stories, watched the fires in the sky as cities fell. To be given to a human, to live in his home, made her heart heavy. Her people had told her it was for peace, for survival. But she believed they had given her away to save themselves. She believed she would not survive the week. Tom opened the door to his cabin. It was small but clean. A wooden table, a few chairs, a soft couch, and one bed. He pointed to the couch. You can take that. I'll bring you some blankets. Alara sat without a word. She looked around, noting everything. No weapons, no signs of chains or cages. Just a cabin. Just a man. Tom brought her a glass of water and a plate with bread and cooked vegetables. He placed them on the table in front of her and stepped back. She looked at the food but didn't touch it. Tom sat across the room, watching quietly. You don't eat that. I can try something else. I don't know what you like. Alara still said nothing. The translator around her neck was working, but she did not want to speak yet. She needed to study him first. She needed to understand. This human. She drank the water, slowly. The taste was clean, almost sweet. She picked up the bread, smelled it, then took a small bite. It was dry but safe. The vegetables were strange but not bad. Tom smiled a little. Guess that means you're not going to starve. Alara didn't smile back. That night, Tom brought her a thick blanket and a pillow. He pointed to the couch again and said, It's not a throne, but it's soft enough. Alara lay down carefully, wrapping the blanket around herself. She turned her back to him and stared at the wall. Tom sat by the window, watching the stars. He didn't try to talk. He didn't try to ask questions. He just sat there, quiet. He looked at the strange woman now living in his home and thought, how is this peace? What am I supposed to do with a queen? Alara closed her eyes but could not sleep. In her mind, she saw flashes of war, the last meeting with her council, the moment the guards led her to the ship. Her heart beat fast. She feared what tomorrow would bring. She feared the man behind her. She feared she would be his next meal. But then she heard something soft, a sound. Tom was humming. It was a slow, simple tune, almost like a lullaby. Alara listened carefully. It reminded her of something, maybe her childhood. Maybe the songs her mother used to sing. It didn't sound like danger. It sounded human. And in that moment, her fear faded just a little, just enough to let her sleep. The sun rose slowly over the forest that surrounded Tom's cabin. Birds chirped gently outside. Inside the small wooden house, Alara opened her eyes and stared at the wooden ceiling above her. She had not slept well, but she had slept. The sound of Tom's humming from the night before still echoed softly in her mind. She sat up on the couch and looked around. The cabin was quiet. The human was nowhere in sight. Alara stood slowly, wrapped the blanket round her shoulders, and walked to the small window. Outside, she saw Tom near a tree, holding a small basket and picking berries. He wasn't wearing armor or carrying weapons. He looked like a farmer, not a soldier. Still, she didn't trust him. Tom noticed her watching and raised his hand in a simple wave. She didn't wave back. After a few minutes, Tom came inside with the basket in one hand and a cup of hot drink in the other. He placed both on the table without speaking. He glanced at her carefully, then walked to the kitchen and began preparing breakfast. The smell of food filled the room. Alara stood near the wall, her hands hidden under the blanket. Her eyes followed every move Tom made. She didn't speak. She didn't sit. Tom turned and saw her standing. You don't have to stand there, he said softly. You can sit. I won't bite. Alara blinked. She understood the words. The translator device around her neck picked up his voice and changed it into her language. She had not used the device to speak yet. She wasn't ready still. She sat down at the table. Tom brought her a plate, eggs, bread, and a few berries. He placed a fork beside it, then sat across from her with his own plate. They ate in silence. Tom noticed how careful Alara was. She smelled everything before tasting. She chewed slowly. Her eyes didn't leave him. He understood. She thought he was dangerous. Tom tried to break the silence. So, he said, do you have a favorite food? Alara didn't answer. Tom gave a small smile. You know, talking helps. I can give you space if you want, but it might be easier if we tried to understand each other. Still, she said nothing. He leaned back and looked at her. I don't know why they gave you to me. I'm not anyone important, just a soldier who wanted to be left alone. Alara lowered her fork. Her voice was quiet and smooth when she finally spoke through the translator. They gave me to you because I'm no longer their queen. Tom blinked. You were forced to come here. Alara nodded. They said it was for peace. But I believe they were afraid. If I stayed, I would remind them of the war. Tom sat quietly for a moment. And you think I'll hurt you? Alara looked straight into his eyes. Yes, Tom didn't argue. He didn't defend himself. He simply said, you'll see. That afternoon, Tom showed Alara around the cabin. He pointed out the small stove, the water pump outside, the storage room filled with dry food. Alara said very little, but she watched closely and remembered everything. He opened a door and showed her the bedroom. This is mine, he said. You can take it if the couch isn't comfortable. Alara stepped back. No, I do not wish to take your space. Tom shrugged. Suit yourself. Later, he worked in the garden. Alara stood on the porch, watching. The soil was rich and dark. Tom was growing carrots, beans, and a few strange herbs. He worked slowly, but with care. She had seen human soldiers before, in armor, shouting orders, firing weapons. But this man worked with his hands in the dirt and wiped sweat from his brow with his sleeve. He looked nothing like a monster. In the evening, Tom lit a small fire outside. He set up a chair for himself and left another one nearby in case Alara wanted to join. she said after a long moment of thought. They looked at the stars together. My people think humans are beasts, Alara said quietly. Tom nodded. Some of us are. She looked at him. Are you? Tom stared at the fire. I've done things in war I'm not proud of. But I never hurt someone who didn't deserve it, and I never ate anyone, if that's what you're asking. Alara looked down. In our stories, humans eat what they conquer. Tom laughed softly. We don't eat queens. There was silence between them, but it was softer now. Alara reached into her robe and pulled out a small silver object. It was a thin square, glowing slightly. She placed it on the table beside her. This holds memories of my home, she said. My family, my people, it is all I've left. Tom didn't touch it. He just nodded. Thank you for sharing. Few minutes later, Alara stood and went inside. She sat back on the couch and looked around the quiet cabin. It still felt strange. She didn't feel safe, but she didn't feel as afraid as before. Tom stayed outside, watching the stars a little longer. That night, when Alara closed her eyes, she didn't dream of fire. She dreamed of soft earth and quiet stars. She dreamed of a man working in the garden and a warm drink placed gently on the table. She still didn't trust him, but for the first time, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, she didn't need to be afraid forever. The morning came with the soft light of the sun slipping through the windows of Tom's cabin. The smell of fresh tea and bread filled the air. Alara opened her eyes slowly and listened. She could hear soft footsteps and the sound of a kettle whistling. Tom was already awake and moving. She sat up on the couch, still wrapped in the thick blanket. Her eyes wandered to the table, where the cups of tea had already been set. Tom looked over and gave a small smile. Good morning, he said kindly. Alara gave a short nod. Good morning. Her voice was still quiet, careful, but it was the first time she had greeted him without fear. Tom placed a piece of bread on a plate and added a bit of berry jam. He handed it to her. This one's sweet. Thought you might like it. Alara took the plate. She didn't speak, but she didn't turn away either. After breakfast, Tom brought out something new. It was a small, round device with blinking lights. This is a translator upgrade, he said. It works better than the one you're wearing, faster and easier. It also lets us both understand each other clearly. Alara stared at the device. She had heard of such tools before, but most Valari did not trust human tech. I can't force you to use it, Tom said, but it might help us talk better. Alara slowly removed the thin translator hanging from her neck and placed it on the table. She reached for the new device, studied it for a moment, then clipped it to her ear. A soft tone sounded. Then her voice came out clear, soft, and smooth. Testing. Can you hear me? Tom smiled. Perfect. There was a pause between them. Then Tom said, Why did you ask if I would eat you? Back on the first day, Alara looked down. Because that is what I believed. Tom raised an eyebrow. You thought I was a beast. In our world, Alara said, the stories about humans are not kind. They say humans take what they want, they burn, destroy, and eat anything weaker. Tom leaned back in his chair. That's not completely wrong. War brings out the worst, but I'm not at war anymore. Alara watched him closely. Then who are you now? Tom looked around the room. I'm someone who wants peace. I grow food, fix broken things, and try to forget the past. Alara tilted her head. Your people gave you a queen. Is this how humans treat royalty? Tom gave a short laugh. I don't want a queen. I didn't ask for you. But now that you're here, I'll treat you with respect, not because of who you were, but because of who you are. Alara didn't reply, but her eyes stayed on him. Later, they walked outside. Tom showed her the garden in more detail. Alara knelt beside the plants and touched the soil with her fingers. This is good earth, she said. It's full of life. You can tell. Tom asked. She nodded. On my world, I helped grow food in the royal gardens. It was part of our training. Tom smiled. You're full of surprises. Alara looked at him. So are you? For the next few hours, they worked side by side. Alara showed him how to move the soil to keep it from drying too fast. She also shared a trick pressing crushed leaves into the ground to feed the roots. Tom was impressed. I've been planting wrong for years. You're not bad, Alara said softly, just slow. Tom laughed. It was the first time he heard her tease him. It was small, but it felt like a step forward. As the sun climbed higher, they took a break under the shade of a tree near the cabin. Tom handed her a cold drink and sat beside her on the grass. Alara looked up at the blue sky. Your world is loud, but peaceful. Tom nodded. That's what I like about it. There was a short silence. I don't understand your people, Alara said. Tom looked at her. What do you mean? You fight like beasts, but then you stop. You live in metal cities, but you also grow things with your hands. You make music, you paint, you kill, but you also love. Tom thought for a moment. Maybe that's what makes us human. We're a little of everything, good and bad, loud and quiet, gentle and strong. Alara nodded slowly. In my world, everything must be perfect. We are trained to hide our feelings. We speak only what is needed, but I see that you don't hide who you are. Tom smiled. Sometimes we hide it, but out here, I try not to. Alara looked at him for a long time. You're not what I expected. Tom looked back at her. Neither are you. As evening came, they sat on the porch. Tom strummed a small, old guitar. The music was soft and slow. Alara watched his fingers move across the strings. What does that sound? She asked. Music. It helps me think. It sounds like the wind, she said. Tom smiled. That's a nice way to say it. He handed her the guitar. She held it awkwardly. Try one string, he said. Just press here and slide. Alara tried. The sound was sharp at first, but then it smoothed out. She tried again. This time it was better. She smiled. Just a little. That's it, Tom said. Takes practice, but you're doing fine. She gave the guitar back and sat quietly. Her heart felt strange, not heavy like before, just quiet. Before they went inside, Alara turned to him. Thank you, she said, for speaking to me, for listening. Tom nodded. You're welcome. That night, Alara placed her memory crystal on the table again. But this time, she pressed a small button and let the images show. A small floating screen appeared above the crystal. It showed a tall tower, glowing trees, and people dancing in a garden. Tom watched in silence. Is that your home? He asked. Elara nodded. It's beautiful. She looked at him. You may watch it any time. I trust you. Tom looked at her gently. Thank you. That means a lot. She sat on the couch and pulled the blanket around her. Tom returned to his chair near the window. The fire outside had died down. The stars above were bright and clear. This time, Alara fell asleep faster. Her last thought was not about fear. It was about a tune that sounded like the wind. A few days passed quietly at Tom's cabin. The silence that once sat between Tom and Alara had started to fade. They spoke more now, not just about food or tools, but about their past, their worlds, and the small things that made them smile. Tom enjoyed hearing Alara's soft voice as she explained how the sky on her planet turned violet during winter. Alara listened carefully when Tom told her stories about his childhood near the sea. Their days were simple, filled with work in the garden and quiet talks by the fire. But outside their peaceful space, the world was starting to notice. The village closest to Tom's cabin was small, but active. People there had seen ships coming and going, but most had never seen an alien up close. Word spread quickly that a human soldier was living with a Valari woman, and not just any Valari, but their former queen. At first, no one believed it. Then someone saw her. A boy from the village had gone to the forest for firewood and caught sight of a tall woman with silver blue skin picking herbs near the path. He ran back to tell others. Soon, the village was filled with whispers. Some were curious. Others were afraid. A few were angry. Tom knew this day would come. He had stayed away from the village since Alara arrived. He didn't want trouble. But they needed more supplies, medicine, fresh cloth, a few tools. He had to go. That morning, he told Alara his plan. I'll head into town for a few things, he said. I'll be back before sunset. Alara stood at the door, looking calm but unsure. Should I stay inside? Tom nodded. It's safer. For now, people talk. Not everyone is ready to understand. Alara lowered her head slightly. I don't like hiding. I know, Tom said, but just give it time. He left with his bag and walked the quiet path toward the village. As he entered, people stared. A few gave him strange looks. One man stepped aside quickly, as if Tom carried something dangerous. Tom kept walking without reacting. He bought what he needed and turned to leave. But before he could go, someone shouted, Hey, soldier. That thing you brought here, is it true? Tom stopped. He turned slowly to see a small group of men standing near the bakery. They weren't holding weapons, but their faces were cold. What you heard is true, Tom said calmly. She's staying at my place. Is she dangerous? No, she's Valari. She's not here to fight. She's not even a queen anymore. The men looked at each other. One of them stepped forward. We don't want trouble, Tom. This town is peaceful. I don't want trouble either, Tom said. She's under protection by treaty law. You start trouble, you answer to Earth command. That made the men pause. Tom didn't wait for more. He turned and walked out of the village, keeping his back straight. His hands stayed at his sides, even though he felt his heart beating harder. Back at the cabin, Alara was waiting outside. She had not stayed inside like Tom asked. She stood under a tree, her eyes on the path, holding a basket of wildflowers. When she saw him, her face relaxed. You're back, she said softly. I told you to stay in. I couldn't, Alara said. I needed to see the sky. Tom gave a small smile and handed her the supplies. Next time, maybe wear a hat. That night, Tom sat on the porch, thinking. Alara joined him, holding a cup of warm tea. The stars were bright above them, and the night air was cool. Your people don't want me here, Alara said. They don't know you. They don't want to. Tom didn't reply for a moment. Then he said, Maybe it's time they met. You. Alara looked at him. How? Walk with me tomorrow. Into the village. Let them see you're not a monster. Alara thought about it for a long time. Then she nodded. I'll go. The next morning, they set out together. Tom wore a clean shirt and boots. Alara wore a long coat that covered most of her robe and her crown. Her silver blue skin still showed, but the coat helped her blend in a little. As they walked the path, the wind was gentle and birds sang in the trees. But as they entered the village, everything went quiet. People stopped what they were doing. Children peeked out from behind doors. A woman pulled her son close. Men stared with tight faces. Tom kept walking. Alara walked beside him, tall and calm, though inside her chest. Her heart beat faster than ever before. They reached the center of the village. Tom nodded politely at a shop owner. The man didn't nod back. Then something unexpected happened. A small girl walked out from behind a tree. She held a yellow flower in her hand. She walked straight toward Alara. Everyone watched in silence. The girl looked up and said, You're very tall. Alara bent down slightly. Yes, I am. The girl smiled and held out the flower. This is for you. Alara took the flower gently. Thank you. The girl ran back to her mother, who didn't stop her this time. She just watched with wide eyes. Alara placed the flower in her coat pocket. Tom whispered, That might have been the most powerful thing anyone has done all year. They turned and walked back out of the village. This time, people didn't look away. Some even nodded. One man raised a hand slowly. Alara kept her face calm, but her heart felt lighter. Back at the cabin, she placed the flower in a small glass jar with water. She set it on the table where Tom could see it. That girl had no fear, she said. Children sometimes understand more than adults. Alara looked at him. Maybe peace starts with flowers. Tom smiled. Maybe it does. That night, as the fire flickered and the stars moved across the sky, Alara sat on the porch with the translator still on her ear. She looked at Tom and said, Thank you for walking beside me. Tom replied, You walked on your own. I just kept pace. They sat together in the quiet night. and for the first time, Alara felt like she truly belonged. The days grew warmer, and the garden outside Tom's cabin flourished. The bright green leaves and colorful flowers made the small place feel alive in a way Tom had not felt for a long time. The soft hum of bees and the sweet scent of earth filled the air. Alara had taken to helping Tom in the garden every morning. She moved with a quiet grace, her hands gentle as she touched the plants and worked the soil. Tom watched her carefully, learning from her as much as teaching. One morning, as the sun rose over the trees, Alara handed Tom a small seed. It was unlike any seed he had seen before, shiny and smooth, almost like a tiny gem. "This seed is from my home," she said softly. "It grows only where the air is pure and the soil is rich with life." Tom looked at the seed with wonder. "Can it grow here?" Alara smiled. "With care, yes, together." They planted the seed in a small patch of earth. Tom watered it gently, and Alara whispered words in her language, hoping the seed would feel welcome. Days passed, and the little seed grew slowly. It pushed through the soil like a small green shoot, fragile but strong. Tom was amazed to see how fast it grew compared to his other plants. Alara explained that this plant was special to the Valari. It was called the Luminara, and its leaves could heal wounds and calm pain. She promised to show Tom how to prepare medicine from it when it was ready. Tom felt honored to care for something so important. He looked at Alara differently now, not just as a guest or a stranger, but as someone who brought life and hope. One afternoon, Alara surprised Tom by bringing out a small box from her belongings. It was decorated with patterns of stars and leaves. She opened it carefully and took out a crystal. "This crystal is from my crown," she said. "It is a symbol of honor and trust in my world. I give it to you." Tom took the crystal. Feeling its smooth, cool surface in his hand, he looked up at Alara, unsure. "Why would you give this to me?" he asked. Alara's eyes were steady. "Because you have shown me kindness. You protect me. You listen. This crystal is more than a symbol. It is a promise." Tom felt something warm in his chest. He took the crystal gently and placed it on the table. "I don't know what to say." Alara smiled softly. "You don't have to say anything." After that, Tom wanted to give Alara something in return. He searched his small cabin for a gift, but found only simple things. Then he remembered the scarf his mother had wear upon for him long ago. It was soft and warm, made of bright blue yarn. Tom took the scarf and wrapped it carefully around Alara's shoulders. She looked at him, surprised and touched. "Thank you," she whispered. That evening, they sat together on the porch. The wind was cool, and the stars twinkled above. The crystal sparkled faintly in the moonlight. The scarf wrapped around Alara made her feel safe and cared for. They talked about their dreams. Alara spoke of gardens in the sky, where flowers grew under shining stars. Tom spoke of the sea and the waves that sang to him when he was a boy. For the first time, their worlds felt connected, not distant, but close. Alara reached out and took Tom's hand. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes. Tom squeezed her hand gently. "You are no longer just a queen or a prisoner," he said. "You are my friend." Alara looked into his eyes. "And you are more than a soldier. You are my hope." The days continued with quiet joy. The garden grew, the village began to accept them, and the bond between Tom and Alara grew stronger. One morning, Alara taught Tom how to prepare simple medicine from the Luminara leaves. When Tom used it to help a small cut on his hand, the pain faded quickly. "I never thought plants could be so powerful," Tom said, amazed. Alara smiled. Nature holds many secrets. As they worked side by side, Tom realized that this strange woman from another world had become the center of his life. She was no longer someone he feared or doubted. She was a gift. The peaceful days did not last forever. One clear morning, a deep hum filled the sky above Tom's cabin. Alara and Tom were working in the garden when they saw a large ship descend from the stars. It was not like the small ships that had brought Alara before. This ship was massive, with sharp angles and bright lights flashing along its sides. Alara's heart beat faster. She recognized the ship immediately. It was a Valari command ship. Her people had come for her. Tom stopped what he was doing and watched the ship with a serious look. "They're here," he said quietly. The ship landed with a strong shake of the earth. A group of Valari soldiers stepped out, led by an older woman in armor. She carried a staff glowing with blue light and moved with the authority of a commander. Elara stood tall but did not move. Tom stepped in front of her. The commander spoke through her translator. "Queen Elara, you must come with us. The council demands your return." Elara's voice was firm but calm. "I choose to stay." The commander's eyes narrowed. "You were given to a human soldier as a symbol of peace, but your duty is to your people." Tom's hand tightened into a fist. "She's made her choice." The commander looked at Tom, then back at Elara. "This is not your decision to make." Elara held up the crystal from her crown. "I'm no longer a prisoner. I'm free. I speak for myself." The soldiers hesitated. The commander's face showed anger, but also respect. After a moment, she nodded sharply. "Very well. But no. This your choice will change everything." With that, the soldiers left. The ship rising swiftly into the sky. Tom turned to Elara. "Are you sure about this?" Elara nodded. "I am." That night, the stars above seemed brighter and colder. Tom and Elara sat on the porch, the silence between them filled with heavy thoughts. "Elara," Tom said softly, "why do they want you back so badly?" She looked up at the sky. "Because I am a symbol, not just to my people, but to their enemies. If I return, the war may begin again." Tom shook his head. "But you've chosen peace." "Not everyone wants peace," Elara said. "Some fear change, some want power." Tom took her hand. "We'll face this together." Days passed, and news of the ship spread to the village. Some people feared war might return. Others hoped the queen's choice would bring peace. Elara began visiting the village more often. She shared stories of her home, her people, and the gardens under violet skies. The villagers listened, slowly opening their hearts. One evening, an elder from the Valari arrived. He was tall and wise, with silver hair and kind eyes. "I have come to speak with Queen Elara," he said. Elara welcomed him. The elder spoke gently. "We have heard of your choice to stay. Your courage is great." "But not all agree," Elara replied. "Some wish to bring war again." The elder nodded. "Then you must be strong. You are the bridge between worlds." Tom stood nearby, watching the conversation. He felt proud of Elara and worried for the future. That night, Elara and Tom sat close, their hands intertwined. "I do not fear the stars," Elara said. "I fear what they hide." Tom kissed her forehead. "Whatever comes, we face it together." The next morning, Elara received a message from the council. They wanted to meet her again, this time to discuss peace, not war. She looked at Tom and smiled. Maybe hope is not lost. Together, they prepared to meet her people with courage and open hearts. The day of the meeting arrived. The large Valari ship hovered gently above the peaceful village near Tom's cabin. People watched silently as the doors opened and Queen Elara stepped out, not alone, but holding Tom's hand. The villagers whispered among themselves. Some showed surprise. Some showed hope. Inside the ship, the Valari council waited. Leaders dressed in rich robes and armor sat in a circle. Their faces were serious but not unkind. Elara and Tom entered the room. Elara's eyes shone with quiet strength. Tom stood beside her, proud and calm. The council leaders spoke first. "Queen Elara, you have chosen to stay with a human. This is a great change." Elara nodded. "I have seen the kindness in Tom's heart. I have seen the hope in his world. I choose peace for both our people." The council murmured. Some members looked doubtful. Others seemed moved. One elder, the same who had visited the village, spoke clearly. "If we are to live in peace, we must accept change. We must learn from humans, as they learn from us." Another leader said, "But the fear runs deep. Many cannot trust humans." Elara stood taller. "Fear will not build bridges. Trust will. We must begin by trusting each other." The room was silent. Then, the council leader smiled. "Very well. We will send ambassadors to Earth. We will open New paths for friendship. Alara turned to Tom. This is only the beginning. Tom smiled back. A new beginning. Back on Earth, the village began to change. People opened their doors to Valari visitors. Children played together. Farmers shared seeds and tools. Music and laughter filled the air. Alara and Tom worked side by side, teaching and learning. One afternoon, Alara showed the villagers how to prepare medicine from the Luminara plant. Tom helped build a small school where children from both worlds could learn. Alara planted a special tree in the village square. It had roots in Earth's soil and leaves that shimmered with Valari light. The tree became a symbol of hope and unity. Tom and Alara's home grew too. They built a small workshop and a greenhouse. Friends from both worlds came to visit, bringing gifts and stories. One evening, under the soft glow of the tree's leaves, Tom took Alara's hand. You once feared I would eat you, he said quietly. Alara smiled. Now I know you feed me with kindness. They laughed softly. Tom looked at the stars above and said, We have a future together. Alara nodded. Together. Their journey had started with fear and doubt, but it ended with friendship, hope, and love, and a new home built between two worlds.